The airport terminal hummed with the low buzz of early morning travelers, their suitcases rolling like thunder across the tiled floor. I stepped into the chaos, my modest backpack slung over one shoulder, the weight of it familiar and grounding. At 32, as the youngest in the family and a community organizer in a small Ohio town, I wasn't one for extravagance. But today, we were heading to New York for what Victoria, my sister-in-law, called the deal of a lifetime. She strode ahead like she owned the place, her designer heels clicking with authority, her entourage of so-called friends trailing behind her. Victoria was 38, a high-powered real estate developer, always chasing the next big commission. Her marriage to my brother had elevated her in her own eyes, but it had slowly eroded the quiet bonds that once held our family together. I hung back, observing the way she commanded the space, her voice carrying over the crowd as she barked into her phone. Yes, the Manhattan Project, 20 million on the line. This closes, and I'm untouchable. Strangers glanced her way, some with admiration, others with annoyance. But to me, her words were just another layer of the facade she built to hide her insecurities. As we approached the security line, Victoria spun on her heel, her eyes narrowing when she saw me a few steps behind. Sophia, hurry up. You look like a lost tourist. We can't afford to seem disorganized, not with what's at stake. Her tone was sharp, laced with that familiar condescension, the kind that sliced without drawing blood. I met her gaze steadily, my heart tightening, but my face calm. I'm right here, I replied evenly. No edge. No defensiveness. She rolled her eyes, turning to her friends with a smirk. See? Always the slow one. Some people just aren't built for the fast lane. Her friends chuckled, one of them murmuring, Victoria, you're the glue holding this trip together. The laughter stung, a reminder of how easily they enabled her. How my role in the family had been reduced to the reliable shadow, the one who organized holidays, mediated arguments, and never demanded the spotlight. But inside, the hurt festered, a quiet wound from years of being diminished. My father's words echoed in my mind, family sticks together, no matter what. He was 72 now, a retired engineer, his silence at family gatherings a heavy presence that spoke of his own regrets. He hadn't defended me in years, not since my mother passed, leaving us all to navigate the fractures she once mended. Victoria's need to belittle wasn't new. It stemmed from her fear that my quiet authenticity threatened her polished image. In America, where success is measured in dollars and deals, she saw my community work as quaint, insignificant. But I chose silence not as surrender, but as armor. Arguing would only feed her narrative that I was emotional or ungrateful. Instead, I let her words hang, exposing her more than they hurt me. As we shuffled through security, she flashed her first-class boarding pass like a badge of honor. Priority everything, she boasted to the agent. I handed over my economy ticket, purchased with my modest salary. Victoria glanced back, her lips curling. Coach again. Sophia? Guess not everyone's cut out for the view from the top. A few travelers nearby shifted uncomfortably, one woman shooting me a sympathetic look. The humiliation burned, but I straightened my spine. Drawing on my mother's old saying, whispered to me during her final days in hospice, strength isn't in the storm you create, but the calm you maintain. She had been a nurse, quiet and resilient, teaching me that true power lies in endurance, not explosion. Victoria's jabs were her way of masking the cracks in her own life, her failing marriage to my brother, the whispers of shady deals in her firm. But today, her cruelty felt heavier, like a prelude to something breaking. We settled into the VIP lounge, courtesy of my father's old rewards card that I'd borrowed. Victoria's eyes widened when the attendant waved me through. "How did you get in here?" she hissed, leaning toward her friends. "Even the help sneaks into first class these days. Ruins the exclusivity." Her voice carried just enough to sting without drawing full attention. I chose a seat across the room, sipping water slowly, my silence a deliberate choice. Her friends giggled, reinforcing her throne. But I saw the flicker in her eyes, the unease when I didn't react. She thrived on control, on making others small to feel large. As she launched into another monologue about her empire building, her phone buzzed with notifications. Oblivious, she pulled it out and started recording a quick video for her social media. "Power moves in Manhattan. Watch me close this 20 million deal. Not everyone can handle the heat." In the background, her earlier whisper about me echoed faintly. "She's just dead weight." She posted it without a second thought, her smile triumphant. But as minutes ticked by, the lounge shifted. People checked their phones, whispers spreading. A businessman across from me frowned at his screen, then glanced at Victoria with disapproval. Her face paled as she scrolled through comments, arrogant and mean-spirited. Toxic leadership. The admiration she craved flipped to judgment, her carefully curated image cracking under the weight of her own words. Victoria's hands trembled as she refreshed the feed, her voice rising in denial. "This is sabotage." Jealous haters twisting everything. Her friends murmured support at first, but their eyes darted to the exits. One by one, they excused themselves, need to freshen up, call from work, leaving her isolated. The betrayal hit her like a wave, her chest heaving as the room's eyes turned cold. I remained seated, silent, the pain of years of her dismissals fueling my resolve. This wasn't revenge in the flashy sense, it was the quiet consequence of her choices. My heart ached for the family ties she'd severed, but the damage was hers to own. As boarding was called, she stood shakily, clutching her bag like a lifeline. I followed at a distance, the tension coiling tighter, knowing this was only the spark before the inferno. The flight to New York dragged like a suspended breath, the plane's hum a constant reminder of the divide between us. Victoria lounged in first class, no doubt rehearsing her pitch, while I sat in coach, staring out at the clouds. Memories flooded in, the Sunday dinners where she'd label me the family fixer, her words dripping with false praise that masked demotion. My father, ever the peacemaker, would avert his eyes, his silence a betrayal born from his own exhaustion. "Don't rock the boat, Sophia," he'd say later, privately. But rocking it meant confronting the rot she'd introduced. My mother's death 5 years ago had left a void. One Victoria filled with her ambitions, turning family into a hierarchy where she reigned. The hurt gnawed at me, a psychological scar that made every jab feel like reopening a wound. Yet I clung to silence. Not passivity, but strategy, letting her arrogance build until it toppled her. Landing in JFK, the city's energy hit like a slap. Victoria emerged from first class, her facade intact, but her eyes betrayed the social media storm still raging. We piled into a cab, her voice strained as she boasted to her remaining friend about the deal. "This closes, and those trolls will eat their words." But the doubt crept in, her laughter forced. At the upscale hotel in Midtown, the lobby gleamed with crystal and marble, a playground for the elite. Victoria checked in with flair, name-dropping her firm. I lingered behind, unnoticed until a man in a crisp gray suit approached the desk, the same man I'd seen in the lounge, watching our exchanges with quiet intensity. His name tag read, Mr. Harlan, CEO of the development firm she was pitching to. Victoria's eyes lit up, but her handshake was too eager, too desperate. He greeted her coolly, then turned to me with a firm nod. Sophia, right? I've heard about your community work, impressive. The recognition caught her off guard, her smile faltering. In that moment, the power shifted subtly, her betrayal of family ties hanging unspoken between us. As we settled into the suite, Victoria's tension boiled over. Don't embarrass me tomorrow, she snapped, shoving her overflowing suitcase toward me. Carry this to my room, earn your keep. The command echoed her airport cruelty, the weight symbolic of the burdens she'd piled on me. My hands ached as I gripped the handle, but I dropped it deliberately at her feet with a thud. Carry your own baggage, I said calmly, my voice steady despite the rage inside. Her face reddened, friends averting eyes. The act wasn't spite, it was reclaiming dignity, born from the psychological toll of her constant erosion. She yanked it up, muttering, ungrateful as always. But the crack widened, her control slipping as whispers from the lobby followed us, news of her viral slip-up spreading. The boardroom the next morning was a glass-walled arena overlooking the Hudson, tension thick as fog. Victoria launched her pitch with rehearsed charisma, slides flashing projections of luxury condos, her voice pitching the $20 million deal as her legacy. Mr. Harlan listened impassively, his folder thick with notes. I sat in the corner, silent witness. As she wrapped up, boasting about her unmatched network, he leaned forward. Image is everything, you say. But what about integrity? He slid documents across, emails exposing her inflated resumes, settled harassment suits from ex-employees, even a transcript of her lounge video. Victoria's face drained, her empire crumbling. This is a setup. Jealous lies, she shrieked, turning to me with wild eyes. You did this. I met her gaze, silent, the pain of her betrayals fueling my unyielding calm. Her friends bolted for the door, abandoning her mid-meltdown. Mr. Harlan shook his head. No one set you up. Your actions did. The deal evaporated in seconds, her screams echoing as executives filed out. Victoria collapsed into the chair, sobbing, the price of her choices laid bare. The psychological wreckage was profound. Her arrogance had isolated her, turning allies to ghosts. I stood, placing my crumpled boarding pass on the table, a relic of her first public slight. This was your choice, I said softly. Humiliation over humanity. She clutched it, realization dawning amid the ruins. Walking out, the city's pulse felt liberating. My silence hadn't been weakness, it was the blade that felled her without a single strike. The hurt lingered, but so did the freedom, proof that betrayal's cost is paid by the betrayer. As I stepped into the sunlight, I whispered my mother's words, finally unburdened.